Hey, 16K, look what I've got. A ZX Spectrum 16K upgraded to 48 in a very sad state of repair. So it came boxed, but the box is pretty much mashed up anyway. With a broken keyboard membrane. You can see it only has one thing coming off, and that's a very common failure point on these. So that's useless. It's missing the keyboard sort of upper layer, the keyboard guard. It's the actual keyboard itself is pretty worn and faded and greasy. The machine boots up and works. Well, it works as far as I can tell. It boots up to the Sinclair research screen and looks fine. So here's a picture of that working. But yeah, we need to do some work here. So you can buy replacement keyboard membranes, replacement keyboards, and replacement keyboard covers. They're all available. To buy all three together will cost you somewhere in the region of about £30, and they're available in eBay and from various stores, and I'll link some in the description. The other thing you want to do with your Spectrum is you want to recap it, and there's some mods to do as well. So there's some video mods, and there is a mod we can do to the power. So it's got a linear regulator in here, an LM05 regulator, which works by taking in a voltage, I think it's between 25 and 5 volts, and knocking it down to 5 volts. And it does that by taking the unused voltage and burning it off as heat. So if we open up the Spectrum, I'll show you what we're talking about. Pretty easy to open. 5 screws on the bottom. Lid comes off. So inside we've got, you see this big piece of metal here. That is the heatsink for the, in this case actually it's a 78005 AP, but it's essentially the LM05 linear regulator. And what it's doing is it's dissipating the unused voltage into this heatsink, and then obviously it's then being sort of drifting out the back of the unit very slowly. So what we're going to do is replace this regulator with a switching regulator, and I've got one in this packet here. A switching regulator, instead of burning off the unused voltage, what a switching regulator does is it very quickly switches the incoming voltage on and off to create sort of a signal that's going sort of high, low, and then it smooths it out of the capacitor. So the more often it's high, the higher the voltage, the less often it's high, the lower the voltage, and it's all smoothed out, and it's then providing, this one's configured to provide 5 volts. So the bonus of that being that it doesn't burn the unused voltage as heat, it just isn't switched on for most of the time. So it's only taking voltage when it switches itself on. So it's a much more efficient way of doing voltage. Obviously these weren't available, or if they were available, they were very expensive back in 1982 or even 1980 and 81 when this thing was designed. Right, so yeah, we're gonna replace the regulator, so that means this entire heatsink goes away. Don't need that anymore. We're going to replace all these axial capacitors on here with new versions, and then there's a composite video mod in here as well, which is just a transistor and a resistor, and that will make the video out brighter. So there is one modification I've already done on the board here, and it's linked in the description as well. It's a very easy mod. You disconnect the RF can, and then you connect the composite video straight into the RF can. So instead of getting RF out of here, we get composite out of here, and it's much easier to use on a modern TV. You don't have to tune anything in. So yeah, so as mentioned, to replace the keyboard membrane that's under here and the the upper thing costs about £30. So for £15 I purchased a empty shell, an empty Spectrum shell. This is an original. It's in much better condition than this one. I think it's a later revision. It's come from a 48K model. It's got the 48K sticker on it. But yeah, that's not it's not too important. It's in incredibly good condition. I think suspiciously good condition. I don't think this is original. This upper bit and the keyboard and probably the membrane are all new. It might even be the whole thing as a reproduction, but I don't know. This sticker looks quite old, so it's probably fine. Screws in really good condition. It has all the rubber feet, which this one doesn't. So yeah, we're going to use this case instead, and that will save us a tenner, which is interesting. Yeah, so if you are doing one of these, I'd say look out on eBay for empty cases. There are quite a few of them. I don't know what people are doing with the boards, but the cases seem to be a lot of cases on eBay. And I am going to be doing other Spectrum related mods with those empty cases as well. I bought a few of those. Yeah, so let's recap this board and do all the mods that we need to do. Then we'll put it in the new case and we'll turn it on and we'll see if it works, which will be a lot of fun because I love this. I had one of these when I was a kid, and I'm really excited to bring one back to working order. Let's get on. Hey, so just a quick iPhone update. Where are we? Replaced the linear regulator with the switching regulator here, and just tested it, so that's now working. The pain with the switching regulator is that the pins are mounted on it upside down, so when you get the package, the pins are actually mounted on this side of the board. They come up here, 1, 2, 3, and what you need them to be is on the other side of the board, or preferably not there at all. If there were no pins there, then it would be much easier to add pins later. So yeah, that's done. So the massive heatsink now is redundant and removed, and so is the chip. So the next thing to do is go around and remove and replace all of these capacitors one by one. Now, if you're doing it yourself, I would strongly recommend you do it one by one. You don't pull them all off and then use a guide to put them back. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, on some revisions of the board, the screen printing is incorrect. So you can see the plus here and the plus here indicate that the plus and the plus of the axial go to these 2 points. You can tell which end of the axial is plus by the indentation on it, and it usually sometimes has an arrow on it as well. So this one says negative is to the back. See, that's meant to be a minus sign there, and it's at the back. So yeah, go around, replace all of these, 1, 2, 3, however many there are. Then there's the video mod as well, and I'll show you how to do that. almost done with our modification of this revision 3 ZX Spectrum board. We've recapped it with these really sexy black capacitors. Now it looks much nicer than the sky blue ones that were in there before. You know, black is the Spectrum color after all. And here's the power regulator, as we've seen before. So the final modification to do is to the video. You can see this orange wire here. So that's a modification I've done already, and that's the simplest form of video modification. And basically you're just bypassing the RF can and taking video straight from the LM18889 chip, composite video out of here on that orange wire into the can and then directly onto this output. So none of the internals of the can are used. So what we're going to do is we're going to replace that mod because it's a perfectly serviceable mod and it works fine, but the image you actually get on the screen is not as bright as maybe it should be. So in the recap kit also comes the composite mod kit, which comes with a capacitor and two transistors. And basically these are fitted to the board and replace some components here to make the video much brighter. So that's the next step. I'm going to install this mod. And then what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll go through all the modifications we've done on the board, and then we'll put it in the new case and we'll plug it in and I'll load a game. So yeah, video mod next. So something I just realized while I was testing is years of the power plug being pulled in and out of the back of the Spectrum without, because it doesn't have a reset button. So the only way you can reset it is doing that, is kind of split the cable on the end there. So I'm going to have to redo this cable before I can really continue, because a minute ago it just shorted out and it got really hot, and I thought I might have killed it. So luckily it got away with it. But yeah, I'm going to fix this now, and then we can get on with the rest of the modification. The mods are done on the revision 3 board, so let's take a tour around the work that we've done. Okay, so first thing we did was replace the LM7805, or in this case it was a 78005 linear regulator with a switching regulator, this one here, and I'll put the part number in the description if you're interested, but it's any 5 volt 1.5 amp switching regulator will do, and that replaced the linear regulator, and so the heatsink that was over here is gone as well. Then we recapped the entire board, so everywhere you see a large electrolytic axial capacitor, so there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's some, they were all replaced. They were blue old ones, Genelec ones, I think, they'll be from the 1980s, if not earlier. Yeah, an interesting fact is that this machine was built to a budget, so a lot of the components they sourced, especially for the revision ones, were cheap as possible. Okay, so the last bit of the mod was the video. So if you look here on the side, this is the RF can, and what would happen is power would come in on this rail here into it to power it, and video would come in where this capacitor is now seated. So what we've done is we've put a capacitor in, taking the composite video in on the negative leg, and then out on the positive leg. That's a coupling capacitor there for the video. So if we then open up the can, if I can get it open, let's just see if I can prise my thing in there. Whoa, drop the phone. Got it open. You can see here what's happening is the orange wire is going in and then is going straight to the center pin on this connector. What used to happen was this resistor here that is disconnected was connected to the RCA jack. So what would happen is video would come in, go through all the circuit, get RF modulated, and then come out on there. It's RF modulated video, now it's composite video. So the final bit we've done is we've replaced TR1 and TR2, which are these little guys down here, have been replaced with more modern, more powerful, more reliable transistors. So these new transistors, which are BC598C transistors. They came in the mod kit with the rest of the stuff. So I did buy a mod kit from eBay with all these parts in. I looked at sourcing the parts separately, and it just turned out to be way more expensive than buying the mod kit. The mod kit was £3, as opposed to it would have cost about £15 to order components, because you can't order 1 and 2s. You have to order 5s and 10s, so you end up with more than you need. Anyway, it came with these 2 transistors, and they needed to be replaced, and they replaced these ZTX313s. In the instructions, it said that the transistors needed to be located 180 degrees from the old ones. Now that is correct. So if you look at the board, you can see the silk screening creates a sort of transistor shape on the board, and it's bulging out this way. And on this one you can't see it, but it bulges out that way, and that indicates that the rounded side of the transistor, especially this one, should be facing that direction. And when it was a ZTX313, that was the case. The ZTX313 is facing that way. Now it's a 598C, the bulging part is the opposite direction. Now the instructions were confusing to me, because I looked at the data sheets instead and could see that this transistor is emitter base collector, and this one is collector base emitter. So they are inverted, so I originally put them in the other way around, and the video didn't work. So I swapped them around and it did work. So yeah, if you're having a problem, just look at this picture right here. You can see you physically invert the package, don't care about the order of the legs. And that's my top tip. Right, so this is now a working ZX Spectrum board. Well, it was working before, but now it's working even better. So what we're going to do is put it in our new case and fire it up. So I'd finished the mods and I was putting it back together, and annoyingly the keyboard membrane snapped. So that's a really common fault on these guys, and that's why they do make modern keyboard membrane replacements. This one is from a lot that was made in 2016, so it's much newer. It's made out of kind of mylar plastic instead of the whatever they made the old one out of that failed. And ironically, I had one of these when I was a kid, when I was like 6, 7, and 8, and that's what killed that one as well. The keyboard membrane snapped, which is weird because I never opened it. It just it's because it's in a constant bent position inside. Eventually, it just kind of fatigued and failed. I guess because a lot of heat is also being distributed in the case by that great big linear regulator, and the ULA chip as well spews out a lot of heat. So this isn't the last time I'm going to open this case. I also have on back order a heatsink for the ULA, which I'm going to need to install. Yeah, so that's the next step. So in order to replace the keyboard membrane, we need to lift these 4 tabs. You can see these 4 brass tabs, and then that will release the keyboard cover. So yeah, the membranes snap there, and also the copper or whatever it is contacts have worn away on that one. They're very fragile, so I'm not surprised that's happened. But it is annoying because I was like right on the verge of typing in 10 print 16BitBench 20 go to 10, and I realised I couldn't actually do symbol shift and create the quote character, and that's because half the keyboard was dead. So I'm going to need a spudger just to get this guy off. So I can find one from my box of spudgers, or do I have one kicking around? Oh, I can never find anything on this bench when I need it. It's really annoying. There's one right down there. There we go. Yes, I'm really excited to get this back up and running. I actually stopped doing the other thing that I was doing today. Just as soon as the post came in, I was like, my membrane's arrived. Yeah, so none of this stuff is going to survive many. I can tell these tabs are really soft. You know, they're going to fatigue and fall off as well if I have to do this like 6 or 7 times. Yeah, because it's the problem. You bend them back and then you need to straighten them. Come on. There we go. For a hobbyist computer, they didn't really design it with the ability to take it to pieces. Okay, can I get away with not lifting? No, the bottom tabs have to come out as well. I mean, thank God someone invented plastic spludgers. Imagine doing that with a screwdriver, would just scratch it to pieces. Okay, so let's pop out our busted old membrane. Vintage 1982. Well, this is a revision 3, so it's probably 1983 membrane. The guy who bought this off on eBay actually said this membrane was new, but it's clearly original, or made in the 80s or 90s. Yeah, this one's so much better. It's made out of completely different plastic. This is a kind of rubbery plastic, the kind of thing you'd find inserts in a file folder made out of, that same sort of plastic. I don't know exactly what it is. Yeah, so this should just slot in easy as pie. There we are. Keyboard membrane in place. So then we position the keyboard. There's little plastic tabs that stick through the keys, and just make sure they're in the right position. Oh, so excited. It's like Christmas. It's like Christmas 1985 all over again. And then we'll pop this guy back in. Hopefully I can just push that back. Get my spudger under that tab. Go. Sorry about the noise. There's some guy next door who's just got super loud recently. Yesterday he was on the phone to his phone service provider for 20 minutes on hold, and for some reason it just comes super loud through the wall. Okay, I might need to straighten that tab a little bit. Again, like any of these retro things, like I've said before, go slowly, go gently. Don't force things if they don't want to go. This black stuff is just paint. So if you get any metal tools near it, you're going to scratch it and you're going to go, ah, I've just scratched it. And now I've got a big scratch on my keyboard layout. There we are. So that's a new keyboard membrane installed on my Spectrum 48K. So it should now be a simple matter of just plugging the membrane into the board. Just making sure it's around the right way. I can already tell it's a much better membrane. It's got conductive copper on the membrane pads. On this one, it's just, I don't even know what it is. It's not solder. It's like if you put any heat on it, it evaporates. So Scotch mist. Sir Clive Sinclair's catalytic converter rubbings. I have no idea what's on there. Of course, that's before he invented the C5 and became fully electric. Oh, having a bad time with the Spectrum. It's a bit sad. So the ULA chip, this one is dead. So there's no point in even putting a heatsink on it. To tell the truth, it's not dead. It has a problem. So the keyboard membranes plug into these two keyboard connectors 1 and 2, and then you get the buttons are matrixed together. So for instance, 2WSX, Symbol Shift L, O and 9 are all on the same loop, and what I'm finding is none of these keys work. So I looked at a diagram of the membrane, and here it is, and I can see that all of these keys share the same pin on the keyboard connector. If we look at the layout of the keyboard, layout of the system, let's just make a video. So this is keyboard connector 1, KB1, you can see it there. And the pins from the keyboard connector go into this resistor bank, and that's pulling them to 0, and then they also go to the ULA chip. So the one that we're having a problem with is pin 2 on the keyboard connector, which is resistor 4 here, and then I traced that signal all the way to ULA pin 20, which is this one. So I looked up the pin out for the ULA and the diagram. I can see that correlates. The pin 2 here goes directly to the ULA there. So what you can do, and what I did was got a bit of wire. This is what a bit of wire looks like, and you can manually ground some of the pins to input keyboard characters. So I connect my wire to keyboard connector 2, pin 2, which is the other end of the matrix for button number 2. And then when I short it to pin 2 on keyboard connector 1, what I should get is a 2, and I do not get a 2. So what I did is I did exactly the same thing on the pins of the ULA, so right up to the ULA. Now no, pin 19 is keyboard connector pin 1, I think. Anyway, so pin 19, if I short that to pin 2 of keyboard connector 2, then I do get characters on the screen, and I know that's working. If I short to pin 20, I get nothing. So I looked online. I found a blog, a forum post, which I will link in the description. But basically, the final post on that forum says that the issue 3 machine with a C6001E6 ULA are prone to such issues, as the ULA is very fragile. And this is a 6C001E-6 ULA, so it's exactly what the guy was talking about, issue 3 board. So that seems to match up with my investigation and what I found. So bummer, but not, because there is a company called Retrolium. Retrolium have produced a replacement ULA chip in the form of a daughter board that plugs in here. So I've ordered one of those, and when it arrives, we'll install it and we'll have a look at that. So yeah, kind of sad. And unfortunately, that means that this Spectrum is now massively over budget. You know, if it was just a case of getting a Spectrum, putting it in a new case, and having it work, that was just about viable. Now I'm spending an extra £20 on a new ULA replacement. That puts us way over budget, and that means there's no way to recoup costs on selling this Spectrum one, so I might as well keep it, which I probably will end up doing. But yeah, so next time we have a look at the Spectrum, I'll be talking about installing the Nebula ULA and testing that, and hopefully we'll be loading some games. So if you found this video useful, please like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, it's 16BitBench. Thanks for dropping by, and we'll see you next time.
Imagine a vehicle that can drive you 5 miles for a penny. A vehicle that needs no petrol, just a battery. And that takes the press of a button to start, the squeeze of a lever to stop.